Today, we're diving into one of the most critical skills our kids need in this super competitive world, but it's one we almost never actually teach them. We're talking about how to handle failure. This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Setbacks are gonna happen. A bad grade, not making the team, a tough social moment, it's all part of life. The real test isn't whether you can avoid falling, it's what you do right after you fall. I mean, think about the world they're growing up in. Failure isn't a private thing anymore. It's public. It's right there on a dashboard, a leaderboard, a social media feed for everyone to see. So the real question is, are we actually giving them the tools to survive it? Let's unpack this with a real story. Okay, so this is Arjun. And his story, well, it's a perfect example of what happens when a kid who's been praised his whole life for being successful suddenly gets thrown into a world that just doesn't play by the same rules. It's a story that's happening in so many homes all over the world. So Arjun was always the top student, right? He was used to acing everything. But then, a huge shift. He moves to a new country, a new school, and a totally different way of looking at success and grades. And bam, for the first time in his life, he wasn't at the top. His report card came back with average marks, but even more shocking for him, it was filled with constructive critical feedback. That was something he was just not prepared for. The impact was immediate, and it was severe. He just shut down. It's not that he failed a test. He failed emotionally because no one had ever taught him how to fall safely. This is what he told his parents. And that right there, that's the heart of the problem. For Arjun, his grades weren't just something he did, they were who he was. So when the grades dropped, his entire sense of self just collapsed right along with them. So how does a kid even get to this point? Well, it often starts in an educational environment that creates something we can call the perfection trap. Think about those really high-stakes systems, like the CBSE board in India. They're designed to build students who are incredibly strong, but also incredibly fragile. See, in a trap like this, the message you get, loud and clear, is that failure is dangerous. Making a mistake will literally drop your rank. Your entire value as a person feels tied to your results. This doesn't build resilience. It builds a ton of performance anxiety. But here's the crazy part. This system does create some amazing strengths. These students have incredible discipline, amazing endurance. They can absolutely perform under pressure. But the hidden risks are massive. They develop a low tolerance for risk. They panic when things aren't perfectly clear. And, well, just like with Arjun, they face the risk of a total emotional collapse the moment that winning streak finally ends. Okay, now let's flip the coin and look at the other side. You've got educational systems like the International Baccalaureate, or IB. These tend to create what we could call the courage paradox, building students who are super flexible, but maybe, just maybe, sometimes lack that hardcore discipline. And the difference is just stark. Where one system screams, failure is dangerous, the other says, hey, failure is just information. The whole goal shifts. It's not about avoiding mistakes anymore. It's about learning from them. And the outcome? You move from that constant performance anxiety to a real sense of emotional safety, where it's actually okay to be wrong sometimes. Now, this approach builds some fantastic strengths. You get courage, flexibility, a real openness to feedback. But yeah, there's a flip side. For some kids, it can lead to a low sense of urgency, maybe a lack of persistence. Failure can become so normal that it stops being a signal to fix something and just becomes comfortable. So if both systems have these pros and cons, what's the answer? Well, it's not about picking one system over the other. It's about building a universal toolkit, something any student from any background can use to build resilience. Let's call it the recovery framework. All right, this is the good stuff, the practical takeaway. There are 5 key steps here. First up, assess calmly. You name the failure, no drama, and you separate it from who you are. It's a data point, not a judgment. Second, plan and act. Don't get overwhelmed. Just find one small thing you can control and do it. Start there. Third, seek feedback. Go ask for help. Find out what went wrong so you can actually fix it. Fourth is track progress. Stop obsessing about perfection and focus on just getting a little bit better, on being persistent. And finally, and this one is so important, rest and reset. Give yourself a break. You have to recover emotionally before you can jump back in without beating yourself up. And this is the mindset we've got to teach. A bad grade, a lost game, it isn't a giant stop sign. It's just a signpost on the road telling you, hey, maybe try a different route. It's information. It's not a final verdict. So here's the bottom line. Recovery is a skill. And just like any other skill, it needs to be practiced and it needs to be tailored to the person. The specific tools a child needs to work on really depend on the strengths they already have. And you can see how this works, right? So a student coming from that super disciplined, high-stakes background already has the drive. What they need to develop is emotional safety, the belief that it's okay to fail. But a student from a more flexible system who already has courage, they might need to focus on persistence to make sure failure stays a lesson, not a comfort zone. And what about a student from a state board? They often have this quiet resilience, but they need to be taught the confidence to really use it. Ultimately, this is what we're aiming for. Real, true resilience isn't just about having the courage to try something and maybe fail. It's about having the consistency, the discipline to get back up, learn from it, and go again. It's the best of both worlds. And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. In a world that is going to constantly push and test our kids, the ultimate advantage isn't being the person who never stumbles. It's being the person who gets back on their feet the fastest. And the question for all of us is, are we teaching them how?